May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be always acceptable to you, O Lord. Amen. Please be seated. Welcoming Divine Mystery. After Harry Potter and Hagrid went to Diagon Alley to purchase his first-year books, uniforms, and of course a wand, Harry had to wait a whole month before classes would begin at Hogwarts. He returned to number 4 Privet Drive, where Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon begrudgingly offered shelter. Alone in his room, he looked through school books and spent time with his new owl, Hedwig. When it was finally time to leave, Harry needed a favor from Uncle Vernon. He needed a ride to King's Cross Station in downtown London. His train was scheduled to depart at 11 a.m. from platform 9 3/4. Uncle Vernon was not amused. "Don't talk rubbish," he said. "There is no platform 9 3/4. He continued muttering under his breath, barking, howling mad, the lot of them. Through the first 7 chapters of Mark's Gospel, Jesus has been leaving a sort of breadcrumb trail for the disciples and for us. One miracle after another, signs of his divine nature. In last week's reading, Jesus wondered out loud whether the disciples had seen enough. He asked the disciples, "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." After Peter's confession of faith, 3 things happened. First, Jesus predicted his death and resurrection. Second, the disciples gave a human response to his divine revelation. And third, Jesus gave a rebuttal to the human response. This same pattern repeats itself in today's gospel. First, the prediction. The reading begins with Jesus sounding a little like Agent 007. He's secretively passing through Galilee, his home turf, but he doesn't want anyone to know he's there. He gathers the disciples and explains to them again that he will be killed, and 3 days after being killed, he will rise again. The text says, quote, "They did not understand what he was saying." We are Easter people. We hear Jesus' revelation having already read the whole story, the manger, the cross, and the empty tomb. We have knowledge the disciples do not yet have. Jesus is inviting them into his divine mystery. When Harry got to the train station, he saw for himself. Platform 9 was adjacent to platform 10. There was no platform between them. Harry stopped a station attendant and asked for directions to the train departing for Hogwarts. But Harry couldn't tell the attendant whether Hogwarts was northbound, southbound, eastbound, or westbound. And of course, the attendant had never heard of Hogwarts or platform 9 3/4. Second, the human response. The second leg of Mark's pattern is the human response to Jesus' prediction. They may be too afraid to ask Jesus what he means, but they aren't too afraid to imagine who will take the helm after his death. The disciples spend their walking time that day bickering over who among them is the greatest. Their friend has announced that he will die, and the human response is to argue over who is next in line. This is definitely not humanity's finest hour. They are not prepared to welcome divine mystery. Harry is making his way through King's Cross Station. It's a busy place. More than 150,000 passengers move through that station every day. Harry has a luggage cart filled with trunks, and perched above the trunks is a bird cage, perfectly sized for Tweety Bird. But this cage doesn't hold a charming songbird. It contains a predator, Hedwig, an enormous owl. An 11-year-old boy, alone, with an overflowing luggage trolley topped with an owl, asks an adult for help finding a platform number that makes no sense, bound for a destination that makes no sense. The humans walk away, disgruntled with the abuse of their time. Third, the divine rebuttal. Jesus asked the disciples, "What have you been arguing about all day, fellas?" They are silent. I wonder what they felt. Jesus breaks the silence. Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. It is not the last time he will teach us this lesson. "Excuse me," Harry said to a woman with 4 boys, all with flaming red hair. They, like Harry, had trolleys with trunks and an owl. He asked how to get onto platform 9 3/4. Mrs. Weasley provided the needed wisdom. "Not to worry, dear. All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop, and don't be scared you'll crash into it. Best to do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous." Harry could not see platform 9 3/4. What he saw was a brick wall. As he moved toward it, passengers who were headed to platforms 9 and 10 were bumping into him. They did not see platform 9 3/4 either. A woman, whom Harry had never met, tells him to walk straight into a brick wall, and he goes. Somehow, the child imagines the possibility that the brick wall is more than clay and mortar. It is also a portal to another world. Jesus welcomed a child into the circle of his disciples. Taking the child into his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." Jesus' example to us is to welcome the outcasts of his culture into his inner circle. And then he asks us, can you see this child? Can you see Christ in this child? Do you have the faith, the prophetic imagination to see the world differently? All of us know people who see only the brick wall between platforms 9 and 10. Much of the time, I am those people. Our lives are busy, crowded, one-way thoroughfares, and we're doing our very best to do it all and do it well. On those days when we bang our heads into the brick wall, there is peace in Annie Lamont's words of wisdom. "I do not at all understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are, but does not leave us where it found us." Searching for platform 9 3/4, Harry Potter encountered Mrs. Weasley. She sees him, his aloneness, his uncertainty, his vulnerability. She doesn't brush by him hurriedly. She meets him where he is. Harry crosses through platform 9 3/4 into an imaginary world, one that is broken, in many ways similar to our own. The disciples argue over who is greatest among them. Jesus doesn't cast them aside and look for 12 better humans. He welcomes these broken human vessels into his life. He met them, and he meets us where we are, over and over again. And each time we open our arms and our lives to the divine mystery, we are changed. Spiritual disciplines, Christian formation, and regular Eucharistic worship. All of these share one characteristic with platform 9 3/4. They are openings to another world, another way of being. They do not lead us northbound, southbound, eastbound, or westbound. They lead us more deeply into the life of Christ. Amen.